Hello and welcome to Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is Patrick Nisley.
My name is David Howe.
Oh, and I'm Jordan Willis.
We're clapping for Jordan.
It's three of us. We're still getting used to the new host setup here, but it's working. It's working.
Yeah, and this week the three of us on episode 213 are going to be talking about the Game Boy Advance, and in particular about Game Boy Advance games that we would like to see come to the Nintendo Switch Online GBA app for the people that pay extra like we do. And we've got a lot of great stuff in the news. There's a big Nintendo Direct rumor happening. A lot of Nintendo news here, as well as some non-Nintendo stuff, but follow up on some of the Legend of Zelda film rumors. Follow up on an old rumor about a Star Fox Grand Prix. And then there's been some showcases and lots of other stuff. We'll get into all that. But first, how are we doing this week, everybody? What's going on with y'all?
Doing pretty good. Rocking the bald look on today's episode for the YouTube viewers. So if you haven't subscribed over at the YouTube channel, make it over there now, baby, because I'm probably gonna be wearing a hat next week.
This is a rare no hat episode.
Yeah, none of us are wearing hats.
Usually David and I both wear hats.
I was like, I feel like I should wear a hat this week, but then I saw neither of you wearing hats, and I like, all right, we're hatless.
Yeah, doing pretty good. Had a very chill weekend for the most part. Was off work today for Juneteenth, so it's been like a long 3-day weekend, I guess. 4-day weekend. I don't know what you call this. But yeah, it's been fun. I kind of abandoned Tears of the Kingdom a little bit to play some other games, and then just kind of went whole hog back into it this week. And I've been playing quite a bit. I have a lot to talk about at the end. Also saw The Flash in theaters this weekend. Just a fucking mess of a movie, man. A completely incomprehensible garbage fire. I mean, like, it was like a lot of people like it. That's cool if you did, but man, what a mess of a movie. It was like, I went there just to watch it happen from afar, and that's exactly what I got. Man, I have no idea how they're going to work themselves out of this one. It's also nobody's going to see it, so way to go, DC, killing it.
Like literally killing it.
Yeah, killing it, restarting over. We'll see if anybody's there when you do. What about y'all?
Pretty good. I watched a Neil Breen movie on Friday, the first one I've ever seen. I saw this. There was a festival this weekend, Oblivion Access, and I went to one show. It's all Duster. It was way too fucking hot. I am already over it. As a lifelong Texan, this is probably one of the worst summers already. Like, I could just feel if this is going to be for the next 3 months, I'm out. Anyway, but pretty good.
I went to therapy today, and I checked my phone right before I left the therapist office, and it said it was 105 degrees and felt 117 outside. So
no. Apparently we already hit the record for June.
It's not gonna. It's record breaking summer last summer. It's gonna be record breaks every other year, if not every year, folks. Like until we're
killing it. Yeah, we're killing it.
But yeah, other than that, pretty good. Today got some Kirby and went to a shop around. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, it's pretty good. Patrick, go. Stop. I'm gonna stop talking.
Oh, it's okay. I'm fine. It's pretty busy. Yeah, it's hot as fuck, and it's uncomfortable to be outside for a long time unless you're like in a pool or something.
Yeah, you were doing some deliveries and stuff today too. Right?
Yeah, I've been doing plant deliveries and stuff. At least I'm in an air conditioned van, and it's really not that bad. No, I'm doing a lot of stuff, and this weekend there was a lot of familial celebrations. My mom's birthday, my wife's birthday, Father's Day, and
oh wow,
my wife was traveling, and There's just been a lot, and I've been pulled in a lot of ways, and I definitely forgot about something I was supposed to do at one point, and I feel like I am like, okay, I gotta cut some things out of my life, or like trim down, or like refocus some things. So that was kind of good in some ways, even if I
think it's better to start big and then pull back as necessary, rather than like half-ass stuff until you hopefully eventually get to where you're trying to be. I don't know. That's how I try to live my life.
But everything's fine. Pretty good. So yeah,
that's good. Oh, and I'm sure you guys have noticed at this point, but we've got Jordan and Summer will be joining us a whole lot more coming up. I don't know that we've made it like totally official yet, but
we're dating. We're not married.
We're basically dating. Yeah, but it's we're in lieu of having a permanent third host, we've kind of got like now kind of a rotating what would be the word? Cadre of guest hosts that you'll be seeing a whole lot more often. Jordan and Summer being among them, and so that's very exciting to have you on much more regularly, Jordan.
Yes,
You're definitely
thank you.
One
Thanks
of our favorite guests.
Last week, Jordan was here, and we talked about Summer Game Fest, the various showcases that had happened as of then, which was most of them, and we got lots of great discussion on the Discord. You should definitely come be part of that. It's hard to shout out the specific comments, but a few of them and all the people that more or less talked on our channel about it. KSB OKC, the Huge 27, Cool Uncle Vince, Emma, who was supportive of the hate on Power World. Karu said, Steve Irwin and Cup Final Fantasy, aka Lee, talking about the Final Fantasy game, incidentally. And then over on Twitter, in response to the title of our episode, which was asking if Summer Game Fest is a replacement for E3, Goob Sausage, shout out to you for saying it can never be a true E3 replacement without Volvi, the Devolver bit that we discussed as well.
Well, Volvi was there. I guess E3 is officially dead.
If anything we talk about today in terms of GBA games, sparks a comment, definitely pop over the Discord, be part of the conversation there, or send us a note and we'll shout you out next time. Also, we appreciate it if you would review the podcast like on Apple or share it with a friend. And then definitely come over to the YouTube, like David mentioned, and hit the like and subscribe buttons for us.
Mm-hmm. You can review podcasts on Spotify now too, so make sure you do that as well.
And with that, we will talk about the news and rumors for the week. So first up, there are a couple of showcases that we didn't get to talk about because they hadn't happened yet. And in particular, it's the Ubisoft Forward event. This one had a Star Wars game and more of the Prince of Persia game. Assassin's Creed, of course, that franchise. Several other games, like Just Dance and a number of other things were mentioned in this. I didn't watch the whole thing. I kind of, read recaps and stuff. Yeah. Any thoughts on anything shown off?
I skimmed it as well. I just kind of watched videos. So I watched the Star Wars Outlaws section. It does look pretty cool. It just looks like a direct rip off of Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm not sold on Ubisoft's ability to make interesting open worlds, but I will probably end up picking that up at some point. And then I also watched the Assassin's Creed one because it's a franchise I used to play, probably stopped out around 4, but I'm always curious. And this one's supposed to be, I heard, smaller in scale, which I think could be better.
I think it's a budget title too, right? It's not coming out at the full 60 or 70. I think it's like, I think I read somewhere it's like $50 upon release. Okay. So it's like a smaller game. I know a lot of people really complained about the length of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, is that it was just kind of overstuffed, right? So it's nice to see them kind of go back to their roots a little bit on that one.
Yeah.
I did. I watched the trailer for Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. I've actually been pretty excited for that game. It's been in development for a long time, and I feel like that kind of shows a little bit. Like it feels a lot like the Far Cry, like open world style games a little bit. Like there's a lot of like enemy bases you can raid and stuff like that. This kind of seems like it's going to be pretty standard Ubisoft open world fare. But it's pretty. And I think the there's a lot you can do in that world. So I'm definitely interested to see what the reviews are like on this. And it's been a long time since we got any Avatar games. So that looks pretty good to me. Lost Crown, Prince of Persia continues to look really good.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. I didn't actually watch the Star Wars Outlaws bit. There was actual gameplay in there.
Yeah, for sure. And it really does look straight up like, to me at least, like Red Dead 2. But
cool.
Yeah, I was like, but then you can jump in a ship and fly into space.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds pretty fucking awesome.
I know. I was just like, all right, this is pretty cool. We'll see how it is when it comes out.
Yeah, for real.
People were like mad that you can't create a character though, and they're like, but why can't I make my own character? Why can't I make I'm like, who gives a shit? Like,
yeah, that feels kind of like thinly veiled sexism there.
It 100. It's not even thinly veiled. It's 100%.
Yeah.
But I thought it looked pretty cool. Probably check it out. The Prince of Persia looks sick. That is definitely, I will be checking that out.
And I only just found out that's the Rayman Legends team, which is, Rayman Legends is one of the best 2D platformers of all time, in my opinion. That game is incredible. So, if the Rayman Legends team is doing a Metroid Dread style game with Prince of Persia, say no more. Dude, I'm getting that day one.
That sounds great. Yeah.
The other showcase that happened on that same day, I believe, was the Capcom showcase, where, I don't know, perhaps some of the bigger ones would include the sequel to Dragon's Dogma, what's it called, Exo Primal, a new Ace Attorney collection, Ghost Trick, a few other games, something. What is it? I don't even Kunutsugami Path of the Goddess. That was an interesting.
Yeah, they showed that at the Xbox showcase.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A few other things, I thought that was I did watch this one while I was doing other things. So I wasn't like super focused. It seemed in my hazy attention to it that it was pretty well paced and well done overall, for what they had to show. I don't know, any highlights on this one for either of y'all?
Not super highlights for me. I mean, Capcom's kind of didn't need this. Like, they've been having a really good year, and they've been putting out a lot of great stuff. And none of this is like that interesting to me. I mean, we have like the second trilogy of Ace Attorney games coming out with Apollo Justice. Those are kind of remakes, right? So it'll be nice to see those for people that are fans of that. Pragmata, which is like a game that they showed a while ago that has like a robot child in it or something, is basically delayed indefinitely. I still have no idea what the fuck that game is. It's got weird, really like cryptic trailers and shit like that.
Well, it sounds like they don't know either.
yeah, exactly. And then there's a Ghost Trick demo out now for the Ghost Trick remake. So that's nice if anybody's been interested in that. Another game from the creator of Ace Attorney. And that's available now, I think, on all platforms. So yeah, go ahead and check that out if that sounds interesting to you.
I do want to check out Path of the Goddess. I will kind of be following that. I just like the design. Mm-hmm. Designs in it looks really sick. It looks like
really colorful. Yeah,
and like darkly colorful, which is not what we see a lot of, but yeah, we'll see how it ends up. I also was kind of vaguely interested in Mega Man X Dive offline, because if it's a Mega Man X game, I'll try it out, but I don't have high hopes because it was a mobile game at one point. So
understandably, they spent a lot of time on Dragon's Dogma 2, and I own the first one. I've never really gotten into it. I should probably play it. I bought it. But I just want to shout out the director or whoever that guy was in this presentation. I just loved his energy of the way he was like standing there and talking about it. I don't know. He just had good posture and gesturing.
Yeah. I imagine, no shade on Dragon's Dogma 2. I never played the first one, but I imagine that game is going to be hard to go to after Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, they talk about, how there's immersive physics and like, you can do interesting things with like breaking bridges and stuff like that. So, but I kind of
that's
agree.
Also my favorite part of Tears of the Kingdom.
But yeah, like it does like kind of make you wonder for any open world game that's like now doesn't have, I don't know, the various things they have, right?
Yeah. I feel like developers are finally getting caught up with just competing with Breath of the Wild. You know what I mean? And now they've got a game that opens it up even further that's going to inspire even more developers. So I think a lot of those Tears of the Kingdom clones are still quite a ways off.
Well, we'll move on to a rumor that's been happening that there's going to be a Nintendo Direct this very week that we are recording this. If it does happen, that's a bit of a bummer for us, but the timing of Nintendo Directs often is a bit of a bummer for us. This one comes by way of a Twitter user named Pioro, right? That's how I'm pronouncing it.
Yeah. It's based on the character from WarioWare.
There you go. That's right. And they said, in case you were wondering what games will be announced in this week's Nintendo Direct, a new 2D Super Mario Bros. And a remake of a SNES classic. And Wonder is like in a different font and bolded, which I don't know if that's supposed to be a hint. It feels like it to me, but I don't know.
Wonder Swan Color emulator confirmed for Nintendo Switch.
I Googled Super Nintendo games that have Wonder in the name. I couldn't find anything that seemed possible. So
Balan Wonderworld 2.
So apparently this Pioro has leaked things correctly before, often just like this, days, in a short time frame leading up to something, which makes you wonder if they have like editing access to trailer, or are involved in some sort of last minute part of a thing, or work for YouTube or who knows what, right? But they have a decent track record of leaking things shortly before they've been announced. So
yeah, they got the Sonic Superstars reveal a couple days before it came out. The 1-2 Switch, or Everybody 1-2 Switch reveal trailer.
They really set the internet afire with that.
Yeah,
there's still no gameplay or like trailers or any or screenshots of that game.
End of this month.
It's like Monday. We're recording this 6/19.
Yeah,
less than 2 weeks.
Who knows? A new 2D Mario would be incredible, right?
Yes.
I mean, I think we've been talking about why is there no new Mario game this year? If the Mario Odyssey team really is working on a Donkey Kong game, another team taking the 2D Mario mantle makes a lot of sense, right? So I think that would be great. I think it's been 11 years since the last 2D Mario game, if you don't count Mario Maker games,
right?
Which really makes you feel old. The Wii U, New Super Mario Brothers, being that old. So yeah, some kind of new art style, some kind of new mechanics for a 2D Mario game. I think that'd be a really great time to do something like that. If this is true, and there is a Direct this week, what do you guys think this SNES remake might be?
Apparently, this Twitter user, Pioro, has been liking comments that suggest it's Mario RPG. But that doesn't, and also posted some weird Yoshi image or something, right? As I understand it. So that's what signs point to. That's not necessarily what like my biggest hope would be. I'm going to think about that one. Jordan, do you have anything you would want it to be?
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense to me because Square Enix seems to have been playing a little bit nicer with Nintendo and even doing, like the Live Alive remake, and that's exclusive. Well, is it on other consoles? Anyway, whatever. It was on Switch.
I think it is now, but yeah, it was a Switch exclusive at first. Yeah.
So, I mean, I could see who was that? Team Asano? Is that who did that?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something like that, some sort of deal. So I could see it being Super Mario RPG, but I mean, honestly, I just want Mercury Steam Super Metroid, if I'm being completely honest, in my heart of hearts. I think that's the only team that could ever do that game. And I having replayed that game, within the past few years, I played all of them leading up to Dread. It is good still, but I would love to see them take the Dread engine and just make Super Metroid in the Dread engine. I would love that. I would lose it.
I pretty much agree with you. I think ultimately I'd rather see a new Metroid game from Mercury Steam for their next project. But if it is Super Metroid, I mean, I'm sure it'll be great. It'd be kind of hard to fuck up, And they could even expand that game a little bit too.
Totally. Yeah.
By adding new stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I could definitely, the Mario RPG, if that's true, it makes a lot of sense. They could have this be a really heavy Mario Direct. I could see them wanting to get, I could see somebody internally saying the same thing we've been saying for 6 months, which is where is our new Mario going? New Mario games just to bolster sales. Yes, maybe people will also buy Mario Kart 8 or whatever, but yeah. So I could see them being like, here's a couple Mario games. Finally, we got them out,
Well, to be honest, I hope this is announced, and I hope that this segment is outdated by the time it comes out, because I really, really want to direct. If it happens, I'll probably live stream it, and we'll have some kind of content up. And then, next week we'll probably break it down, if that is the case. But we'll see. I mean, I would not be surprised. I mean, this is just the era. I mean, this is the season for everyone to just come up with baseless direct rumors, right?
Yep.
So it's like, it could very well be that this guy, even though he got a bunch of stuff right, is like, fuck it. Drop some fish into the water full of piranhas, right?
Well, we'll find, people listening to this probably know, so we'll move on, right?
Yeah.
So moving away from Nintendo for just a minute here, we're going to talk about Embracer Group. So as you may recall, listener, Embracer Group had been buying up lots of studios and IP. It's got just tons. They were just on a buying spree of like middle, when we talked about like AA game studios, just with this idea of making like not small games, but not huge games. Well,
They're
apparently,
like scooping up old IP.
yeah,
old
like Tomb
IPs.
Raider, and they got the Lord of the Rings, or some form of the Lord of the Rings rights. I don't know if it's video, like what the deal was.
I think it was
exactly.
everything.
Oh, was it? I'm so confused about those rights, because so
Yeah.
many different people are making games and shows and movies and stuff. But anyway, the point is, apparently they have gotten themselves into some trouble by doing this, and they are now having to close more than 100 studios, according to Polygon article, and close to 17,000 employees are going to lose their jobs.
Well,
How many people work for Embracer
Is that right?
Group?
no.
Or they have close to that many employees.
They
in
have
over
100
studios. I'm sorry, I'm misreading the
That would be completely cleaning
insane.
house.
that would be if they got, that's what they have in total. I'm so sorry.
Right.
I was just
right.
reading this. Yes.
Cut that.
No, I'm leaving it in. Everyone needs to see
Patrick's mistake. Yeah. No, that's how much they have right now, right? But that number is going to go down, and they said they can't tell us what that number is yet.
Well, I mean, fucking look at those numbers. Like 17,000 employees, like for Embracer Group. Like, I mean, obviously, each of those studios are kind of like building their own revenue theoretically, right? But I mean, this is what happens, dude. Like, I mean, of course, they just spent, and then the money ran out, and a lot of their investment ran out as well. Who was it that pulled a huge amount of investment? Somebody did. And so then they were just like, oh, we don't have our angel investor anymore. Now we have to actually like cut jobs, right? So this is what was happening constantly with EA. EA would buy up all these studios, and then as soon as they didn't churn out like a mega hit, would just like close the entire studio down. They're notorious for that. So this is like kind of the worst case scenario of what can happen with these mergers and acquisitions, when people just start like gobbling up everything without a full game plan. So I hope that it's not quite as massive as everybody's fearing that it will be, because they really kind of gobbled up all these old IPs that haven't had to do games in a really long time. And a lot of people had hope for more budget titles like that, but we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah.
Just sell Lord of the Rings. You guys don't need Lord of the Rings. Yeah. You could probably get your money back. Yeah. Sell it to Amazon. Fuck it.
Well, we'll move back to Nintendo now, and in particular, there is a sort of touring event that has been announced this past week called Summer of Play, and this is of note to a lot of our listeners and to the three of us, because it's basically every weekend in the summer minus a few random weekends. It's already started, but it's going to be coming to the Austin area on July 28th, but various other cities over the course of the summer. So definitely check out the website about this if this appeals to you at all, because maybe it's coming where you live. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know exactly what it's going to be. It sounds like, just sort of a fun fan event where they're going to have like demo booths and apparently you can take pictures with Tom Nook and Isabelle, I'm guessing, with the thing they had at PAX.
Yeah, they'll probably be repurposing that PAX setup they had
a couple of years ago or whenever that was.
Totally.
We'll see. Maybe there'll be, if there's a direct, maybe there'll be some new games as well that you can demo. That would be cool.
It does say here on the website, you can play Nintendo Switch games at the event, including Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So we can finally play that game.
Yeah, this is our one chance.
I've always wanted to play it on a fresh save file surrounded by children.
Well, that's happening. I'm definitely going to try to go when it comes to Austin, unless it's just a shit show, which I could have also seen it being. So, moving on, there's been some Team Rocket apparel. If you're into Team Rocket, the Pokemon Center website, like, it has, I don't know, some nice looking clothes you can go check out. If you've always wanted to be part of Team Rocket, here's your chance. Does this appeal to any of y'all?
Too expensive.
I'm a good guy, so I don't buy bad guy clothes.
They are pretty darn expensive, right? Like, I'm looking at like a vest that's $110 right now.
Yeah. I think I'm more of a Team Galaxy. I don't know. I haven't played Pokemon in so long. Team Galactic. That's what it is. I'm more Team Galactic.
Yeah. This is where we need summer.
Yeah. Next week. Summer will return.
We'll move on. This isn't for us. Maybe it's for you. If it is, I hope you enjoy your $110 vest. We talked about recently, last week, I believe, that there's been a rumor, another credible rumor, right, in the film circles, that a Legend of Zelda movie was being hammered out between Illumination and Nintendo, specifically, or for Illumination to handle it. But there's been an interview where Chris Meledandri, was he the CEO of Illumination? Is that right? I don't know. He's high up there.
Yeah, he's the CEO of Illumination.
He basically shut down that, saying, I don't know where that came from. So,
and then on the side is like, all right, let's go find him.
Find the
of course
leaker.
he would say that, dude. Like, I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, is this what you take? I mean, it's a.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, he says, I understand how people could surmise all sorts of things. So obviously, he had a great experience, yada yada. But that's something I've been hearing a lot of rumors. But yeah,
I mean, he says in this quote that he's on the Nintendo board of directors. He's like deeply invested in Nintendo at this point, Meledandri. But Meledandri also, as the CEO of Illumination, produces a lot of other DreamWorks animated stuff as well. You know, Meledandri was credited as one of the executive directors on Puss in Boots 2, for instance, right? So, I mean, I still think that the Jeff Snyder scoop is legit. I do think Illumination in particular probably is doing this project. I would be very surprised if they aren't. I would be pleased if it's not Illumination, based on what we talked about last week. But this just sounds like he was cornered at an animation festival and had to say something and was like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? So I think that, I wouldn't take this as like hard truth or anything, right? They just don't have anything to announce yet.
Another long-term rumor dating back to roughly 2018 was that Retro Studios for Nintendo was working on a Star Fox racing game called Star Fox Grand Prix, and there is a YouTube channel, Did You Know Gaming, who does deep dives into various topics, and they did a video recently trying to figure out what the deal with this rumor is and whether it's factual or not, as we all know that Retro's had many projects that have, been pitches or canceled projects. Sounds like I haven't watched the whole video, but it sounds like it's likely to have not ever been a real game, but was sort of a hoax that kind of, right or wrong, kind of tied in around the time the Starlink game came out. So there was maybe a lot of like, whether that was part of it or not, that's a little bit unclear, but it sounds like it is not based in fact. There is no Star Fox Grand Prix game that was canceled. How do we feel about this? Good to know?
Yeah, I think it's good to know that it was never actually a thing. Because I would have always held on to, I think, a little glimmer of hope. I think Star Fox racing game sounds awesome. And in lieu of any kind of F-Zero movement, it was like, maybe this is the way that we'll get our futuristic, like, zero-G racer. I think people have just been really hungry for anything F-Zero and wanted to believe this, right? So, yeah, I'm bummed that it was not a real thing that's like on the shelf somewhere in Nintendo. But I'm glad to know that it's not a real thing, and I don't have to hope anymore.
Oh,
that just
hope
felt
is gone.
sad.
Yeah, sorry.
I
I'll
think
talk about it with my
like-
therapist next week. Yeah, I already blew my load today.
I just like don't ever see like this being the way they bring Star Fox back, but also
Yeah.
like they did do Federation Force for how they brought Metroid back. So I don't know.
Yeah, anything's possible with Nintendo.
Anything's possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in our last bit of news, there was an announcement from Nintendo that Fire Emblem is coming to the Game Boy Advance app, also known as Fire Emblem Blazing Blade. It was the first Fire Emblem game in North America. That's why they just called it Fire Emblem. So coming out later this week. This is kind of taking us into our, our main topic, because this Game Boy Advance app is still pretty new on NSO and still has like maybe 10 games at this point, less than that, maybe even. It's not a lot.
It's 10.
It's
Yeah,
10.
yeah. I had
Not
to
enough.
think about how I have them laid out
the
in
grid.
the app right now in order to. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
But specifically about this, I'm interested to try this. I've played the NES one when they limited time fooled me into getting that, but this one looks a little more modern, right, and that sort of thing. So I'm definitely, and it's free, or not free, right? But
Yeah.
I already paid
Comes
for it.
with the bundle.
Comes
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the bundle, the expansion pack. So I'm gonna check it out. I think that's cool. Glad to see.
Did you play
these
this,
games.
Jordan?
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, Patrick, I also got fooled into buying that limited time Fire Emblem game. I was like, oh, I want to see the history. And I was like, I can't do it. This was my first obviously my first Fire Emblem game. I had this back in the day. I remember really enjoying this game. Yeah, I'll talk about it more later, but I mean, it was one of the first tactics games I played, but I don't think it was the first, but it was definitely the first of like this style. So
Yeah, I
fantastic
haven't
game.
played this one. I hope it holds up okay. I'd like to give it a try. But I mean, fuck, man. If I can't complete a modern Fire Emblem game, I don't think I'll be
Probably
playing
shorter.
this through to completion.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably.
might be shorter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. Might be harder too, but yeah. So yeah, that announcement in particular is kind of one of the things that inspired us to do this main topic we're doing today, which we're going to do in just a moment, which is on Game Boy Advance games we want to see come to this app. And we will be sharing all of those after this short break. So we're back, and this week we are talking about the Game Boy Advance, and in particular, the Game Boy Advance app on the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, and what kind of games we want to see come to that from the GBA's history. But we got to talk a little bit about the Game Boy Advance in general. Up front, I never had one. I am not going to have a lot to say here, so I'm just going to mostly be listening. But just to set the scene here, it came out 20-something years ago in 2001. Handheld device, obviously you can tell by the name, right? Sort of following up on the Game Boy Color. Pretty successful system, right? Yeah, for the time, 80-something million sold. Was around for a while, right? It had a nice little shelf life. Is that true?
In a way. I mean, not really compared to the original Game Boy. If you were to count like Game Boy and Game Boy Color as about the same thing, that had quite an epic run of a lot of games coming out. I mean, there were games coming out for the Game Boy Color well into the Game Boy Advance's life cycle. And so really, when the DS came out, they said for a while, the DS is not next generation Game Boy Advance. We're going to keep making Game Boy Advance games alongside it, right? That's kind of why the original DS had a Game Boy Advance slot and all that kind of stuff. But really, that's just not what ended up happening. What ended up happening is that the Game Boy Advance did have quite a shorter life than it probably deserved, because I think out of all the like Nintendo handhelds predating like the Switch, I think the Game Boy Advance has aged the most gracefully, right? Like those games you can still play. They still look really good. This is kind of, in my opinion, kind of the peak of pixel graphics, really, at least on Nintendo hardware.
That makes sense.
They had really good looking games. They hold up really well. DS games today look kind of rough, you know what I mean? Because it was early 3D in a handheld. Same with Game Boy games. A lot of those can be kind of difficult to play. But with the added buttons that they added in on the shoulders and everything, and just the graphics really just being right in the prime of Nintendo pixel art, this is definitely one of my favorite Nintendo systems. And really happy to talk about a lot of these games that we'd like to see come out today.
Well, another thing I want to just ask before we get into the actual games, which is going to be the meat of this, is there anything you want to share about your, experience playing the Game Boy Advance, or any specific memories of the console, or I mean, obviously maybe when we get to games that will come up too, but no?
I did want to mention, I think the Game Boy Advance had like the funniest iteration of a Nintendo console, which is the Game Boy Micro.
Yeah.
I think that's just the fun. It's like this big.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that shit was hilarious. It reminded me of like a iPod Nano or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I think it came out around the same time as an iPod Nano too.
I love the concept, but it was so difficult to play. It was like
Did you have one?
I did not have one, but I had a friend and I just was like trying it out and I was like, no, absolutely not. But yeah, I just remember when this came out, dude, it was like peak gaming years when I was really starting to get into it. I was in middle school. So when this shit came out, I was so hyped. And then 9/11 happened, but I was so hyped.
Where'd that come from?
It was like right around that time, right?
Yeah,
totally
it was like,
killed my want to play games the day we were attacked.
No, I remember this came out. I want to say it came out during the summer, and so like I got to get it whenever it came out during the summer. And I only ever had the original, and I just had I guess it's indigo color. David, what color did you have?
I also had an Indigo, but then I did eventually get a Game Boy Advance SP as well. And that one I actually have behind me. It's the NES version of the Game Boy Advance SP. Beautiful system.
Yeah.
I'll go grab it right now, actually. Now that I'm talking about it, got it back here. This thing, for so long, I thought I had lost. My sister borrowed it, and then I couldn't find it anywhere, and I assumed that she had just left it somewhere. But turns out it was just in some fucking drawer in my house for a really long time. And then when I finally got this back, I was so excited. I think I finally got this back like 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. It was like around when we started doing this podcast. But yeah, I mean, I spent so many hours playing on this thing. By today's standards, the side lit screen is not the best kind of backlight, but just for the time, having any kind of light on the screen was miraculous. It was like we'd spent so long huddled under lamps or holding your Game Boy up in the backseat of your parents' car and letting the headlights light it up, that this was like a revelation at the time, right? And it's so funny looking at it now because it's so dim and you can barely see what's going on. But at the time, man, there was nothing better.
Totally. Yeah, I just have a very few specific memories of playing this. I mean, playing Four Swords with my friends on New Year's Eve when all the parents are getting drunk out back shooting fireworks. We go out for the fireworks, but then we left all 4 of our consoles connected, and we're like, okay, we're coming back to this shit. Okay, then we go outside, watch the fireworks, then run back in and start keep playing Four Swords, trying to get the most rupees. And then there's also, this is so random, but I remember going to in San Antonio, they have an event called Fiesta, and so they have several parades. There's a night float parade on the Riverwalk, and for whatever reason, I don't know exactly. I think my mom ended up getting tickets, or my dad, I can't remember. But we went. But I was knee deep in a Zone of the Enders, The Fist of Mars, which was by today's standards a very so-so tactics game. But I was so deep in it, I was like, I can't. I gotta bring it with me in between these floats going by. If there's a boring float, if it doesn't have the spurs on it, I don't give a shit. I'm gonna keep playing it. I beat the game there while I was waiting, in between floats. Anyway,
that's pretty cool.
Those are the 2 specific memories I remember.
Man, fun fact, too, by the way. I haven't charged this thing in probably 2.5 years. I just turned it on. It just turned on. It just, I don't know what black magic Nintendo was using back in the day with their consoles, but this just turned on with a green battery indicator. So shit, man, the hardware holds up. It's pretty amazing to see. You definitely could not expect that with the Switch or Joy-Cons or any of their current hardware. Pretty amazing stuff.
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this has the internal battery in it and everything. It's
Because the original
incredible.
Game Boy Advance took batteries, right?
Yeah, the original one was AA's. Yeah, and then an internal battery and a specific charging cable for the SP.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm very fucking impressed.
Sort of moving along to the main thing here, we should mention, I guess, or talk about that the Game Boy Advance app on Nintendo Switch Online, if you have the expansion pack, already has about 10 games, like we said, or it's exactly 10. And then there's 5 or so that they've announced are coming that we know of, right? Obviously, there's Fire Emblem. This one's coming.
Yeah, we basically know of
3
additional games past Fire Emblem Blazing Blade. Or that's what it was. It's coming, right? Blazing Blade. We know that Kirby and the Amazing Mirror is coming. That's an excellent Kirby game. I had that on the 3DS Ambassador program when they gave away GBA games on that. F-Zero Maximum Velocity, which was very similar in gameplay to the original F-Zero for the Super Nintendo. That is kind of a through line you'll see with a lot of Game Boy Advance games, is like the idea was like, oh my God, it's basically a SNES in my pocket. You know what I mean? Like that was really mind blowing for the time. And then also Golden Sun is confirmed to be coming at some point in the future. I imagine there's going to be a lot more first party Nintendo games, especially, that'll be coming, and hopefully we can get some of those today. But those are the ones that we know are coming soon.
Nice. Well, then let's open the floodgates. Again, I don't have a lot to add here, so I'd just be happy to hear what games, y'all played or never got around to playing that you want to see come onto the NSO app.
Yeah. Do you want to start us off, Jordan?
Oh, I'm going to kick it off. One of my favorite games of all time. Probably one of the best remakes of all time, Metroid Zero Mission, because they already got Fusion on there. But it was just great. I mean, when Fusion came out, it's like, oh shit, this is like Super Metroid, but I can take it with me everywhere. Got really good at that game. And then once they kicked out Zero Mission, I was like, I got really good at that game too. I was able to beat it. Back in the day, I was able to beat it in about 2 hours, sometimes sub 2 if I was like playing really well. But I played it. Running. I played it through a lot, and it's like pretty much still the only game I ever really got that good at speedrunning. But I mean, it's just a fantastic game, man. Like just all the additions that were added into Fusion, even from like Super Metroid to Fusion, there's a lot of additions, and then adding those into the original formula of the first Metroid, it's like really very difficult to go back to Metroid at this point, like the original Metroid. It's just, this game is so good. And even like the epilogue is what I would call it, is great as well. It's a first time you really get to ever play as Zero Suit Samus. Just kind of almost becomes more of like a Metal Gear Solid type game or something, It's just really interesting.
Yeah, a lot of like chase scenes, which I think is really cool in that section, is like someone will spot you and then you have to like run through a ton of the area you just went through to try to like shake whoever's like on your tail. A pretty unique gameplay for the Game Boy Advance, to be honest, in that section of the game. Yeah,
it became more of like almost like a puzzle or something, mixed with your ability to escape. But yeah, man, definitely one of my favorite games of all time, and definitely I think one of the best Game Boy Advance games. Might be better than Fusion. That's arguable, but
I think it is. I mean, to be honest, I think Zero Mission might be my favorite Metroid game. Like, I think it's like it just has everything I want in a Metroid game in it. Like, I love Fusion as well, but it's like very linear comparatively, right? But I mean, this, like, Zero Mission is just like, for me, it's like the archetypal Metroid game, and I think the graphics are incredible and hold up really, really well to this day. And yeah, all the quality of life stuff that they did as improvements from the first one. A couple years ago, or was it last year? No, 2 years ago, I played through all the Metroid games, and this was a huge standout for me. I mean, it's the first one I played, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think this is just a matter of time before they bring it to the Switch. I mean, if they brought 3 remakes of Mario games that already have remakes on NSO, they can bring a remake of a game they already have on the NES format. Yeah. So yeah, I would expect that this one will come at some point soon.
Totally. You go for the next one.
Yeah, I'm going to skip one ahead here, Patrick, but one of my favorite Game Boy games. In fact, I think my favorite Game Boy Advance game is Mario Tennis Power Tour. This is, I mean, I'm a huge tennis fan personally, and I've always loved the Mario Tennis games. This is quite literally a tennis RPG that is top down, and the battles are tennis matches, right? The whole thing takes place, you play a human character, you don't play a Mario character, but you're at a tennis academy, and it's kind of plays like a sports anime a little bit, where you're like coming up from the bottom and then, you know, winning, you know, the top tour of whatever it is that you're, you know, that the academy you're at is on. And along the way, you meet Mario characters and play against them and kind of get them on your team. And man, this game has a great story. The graphics are awesome. The gameplay is just some of the best like 2D tennis I've ever played on anything. So I really, really hope this comes to the Switch. I've probably played this game like 5 or 6 times. I love Mario Tennis Power Tour, and I think it would work really, really well on the Switch, and it'd be fun to play it online too.
Yeah, this game's fantastic. Exactly what you said. Like, it just, any RPG sports game is like, the fact that it's not really done more is like so surprising to me, because it works. The format works so well. I mean, do you mind if we move to the next one?
Yeah, absolutely.
To tie it all in. So I, as much as I love Mario Tennis, for me, Mario Golf Advanced Tour was my favorite. I don't know what about virtual golf appeals to me so much, but I've played
golf games.
So many golf games that are like, I love it. And it's the same thing. It's like made by the same people. They're both Camelot games. It's like you level up your all your different abilities that you get to get in a typical golf game, and you meet all these Mario characters along the way. I mean, the fact that it took like 15, 20 years for a direct ripoff like Golf Story to come out is like absolutely mind-boggling to me, that no one just directly ripped off this formula sooner, you know? Yeah, great games. Hope to see them. Hope to see more Camelot games. Like personally, I think Camelot has strayed a bit from the best years of their sports games, but
I agree.
I just don't think they're ever going to return to these. So if I could just get them to play in any way, just to reminisce, I'll be satisfied. Yeah, I want both of these to come for sure.
The Game Boy Color also had Mario Tennis and Mario Golf RPGs as well.
Yeah.
And those were also very good.
Yeah.
But I do think the Game Boy Advance versions are even better.
They just step it up. Like everything is just one step up, and it's perfect. Yeah.
I mean, just having more buttons, right? Like allows you to do a lot more with it as well. But,
totally. Yeah.
Really awesome games.
So they said Golden Sun's coming. So I would love to see. Oh, I guess while we're still talking about Camelot. Anyway, that's funny how that list worked out. I don't know. I guess maybe that's how my brain worked when I was writing some of these down. But I would love to see the Golden Sun: The Lost Age. If you've never played Golden Sun before, there was a direct sequel called The Lost Age, but it was actually a game that happens concurrently to Golden Sun. So in Golden Sun, you play as, I believe his name's Isaac, and you kind of go through his story, and there's antagonists. And then Lost Age is the same story, but from the antagonist's point of view.
So you get it's like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead.
Exactly
it's
like it.
Fire Emblem Fates. Anyway,
where my literary head's at.
I don't read books. Or sonnets, or plays, or. But it was just like the first time I had seen that kind of. Like narrative concept done in a video game. And I was like, man, this is so sick. And it really paints the first game in a completely different light, because it's like you are seeing the motivations for both sides. And ultimately, I mean, I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but you ultimately see like where that ends up. But if they put Golden Sun out, it's almost like you have to put out the second one just so you can get the full and more complete story. And it's just also more of the same Golden Sun. It's a fantastic game for sure. Definitely has to come if they put out Golden Sun.
I've never played a Golden Sun game ever. That's a huge blind spot for me. So definitely excited. We know the first one's coming, right? So I'm excited to try out why people love those series so much. But I'm going to go ahead and jump forward to another one of my absolute favorite games on the Game Boy Advance. Another one I have back here as well. But this is a game, I think out of all of the games on this list, this is the one that I want to come the most. And it's WarioWare Twisted. WarioWare Twisted, to this day, remains one of the most unique and amazing games I've ever played. It is the WarioWare formula, but the game is entirely played by kind of moving, I guess, yaw, is that what you would call it? And gyro, the kind of like tilting left and right like it's a steering wheel, kind of like that's how you control the game completely. And, you know, it was amazing because it had the accelerometer like built into the cartridge, and the cartridge also had rumble. So as you were turning the system back and forth, you had this great like haptic response with the game, and it would kind of like tell you how you're moving stuff back and forth. This is a no-brainer on the Switch. And in fact, when I saw that Kirby Tilt and Tumble was coming to Game Boy Color, I was like, okay, this gives me hope that we'll actually get WarioWare Twisted. Because yeah, I mean, by and large, this is my favorite WarioWare game. I mean, WarioWare Gold is amazing because it has like almost all the mini games from this included in it, like remade. But there's just something about the like GBA aesthetic and the GBA sound chip and what they were able to do with like the weirdo music and the strange voice acting. And a lot of the Wario games have like super like chopped up audio and everything's kind of like remixed and sounds really strange. And there's just nothing like that original like wacko aesthetic that the team behind this and Rhythm Heaven were able to put into WarioWare Twisted. This would, you know, like right now, I think the best way to play WarioWare Twisted is actually through like a GBA emulator on your phone, because some of the emulators can reproduce the gyro, and it makes for a great mobile game. And I think it would just be even better on the Switch with the better ergonomics and the actual controller layout buttons and everything like that. But yeah, WarioWare Twisted. If there's only one game from this list that makes it, this is the one that I hope comes.
Nice. And that's the only one they did. Yeah. Once Tilt and Tumble came, like you're saying, I was like, this is totally a possibility now. I did have a question. Can Tilt and Tumble, can you play with like a Pro controller?
Yeah.
Okay.
I streamed some of it the other day, and I just, in fact, I think that's probably the best way to play it, to be honest, because if you play it handheld, you know, you're tilting the angle of view and it makes it a little hard to see. It makes it a little bit more like realistic as to like how it would be working in real life, you know, because it's like you're tilting a table around. But for my money, I think, yeah, Tilt and Tumble works really, really well with a Pro controller, just so you're not obfuscating anything that's happening on the screen. I do think, though, if this does come, play this game in handheld, right? Well, because it is quite literally made. It's not like a game where you're tilting forward and backwards. So it's like your eyes will always be on the screen in the appropriate orientation. Cool. I don't know. It's like they took the ideas of Tilt and Tumble and refined it and simplified it into something that is just, it's just perfection as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I would be really excited for this to come because I never got to play it back in the day. And it's always one of those regrets because it's like, yeah, I can't play this probably any other way besides what you're saying. So
yeah, it's even hard to like emulate on like the Steam Deck, you know. It's like I can't figure out how to get gyro to work on like the GBA emulator on my Steam Deck, right? That's kind of a golden goose.
Yeah. I'll go Final Fantasy Tactics, baby. Sorry to just completely jump. I was like, I don't know where to go.
No, I think we should go back and forth. I think this is a good way to do it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I would love to see Final Fantasy Tactics. Not my favorite Final Fantasy Tactics game. I actually really like the one for DS. I think it's like Final Fantasy Tactics A2. Don't ask me why. It's called that. I thought it was a really dumb naming convention at the time. But this one was great. Like this was probably, I was like looking at release dates for this game, and this game came out a couple months before Fire Emblem. And I know in particular, I was a big Final Fantasy head at the time. Like I had played 8, 9, 10. I even played like Chrono Trigger came with, I think, 4. I can't remember exactly which one. It came out with like a dual pack for the PlayStation original. So I was like primed. I was like, oh, a tactics game. What does this mean? This is a new way to play RPGs. So this was probably my very first tactical RPG game I've ever played. And I absolutely loved it. Like it starts off in such a cool way too. Like you're like kids in like a snowball fight. And then it's like how they introduce the world. And then like you go into the fantasy world. But yeah, this game's phenomenal, you know? So I really, you know, hope this comes. I don't think, I mean, how many third-party games have come so far?
to this.
GBA,
No.
yeah.
Yeah, GBA has 0. Yeah,
Zero,
yeah.
right? That's what I thought. And I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I don't know if Square Enix would let it slide through.
I mean, if we haven't gotten, like, I would say this one's pretty unlikely. Like,
Yeah.
if like Super Mario RPG hasn't come, you know, barring a remake or something
that
like
would be,
that,
yeah,
right?
like,
I think, you know, I think it would be pretty hard to see this make its way over. That said, I mean, it would be very welcome. This is a beautiful game. Yeah, the story is excellent. And yeah, the graphics really hold up on this one as well. It's got beautiful, I think even more than the PlayStation game, this one holds up because it's really simple, but really like fantastic pixel art. That's like actually pretty, I don't know. It's really detailed given what it is, but yeah, this is a great game. Good pick.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go next. I've got Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. If we're going with third-party games that probably aren't going to make it. Yeah, but dude, do not fucking sleep on this game. This is a really, really unique game. Like, it basically takes Tony Hawk Pro Skater, you know, which we've played in 3D a bunch of times, and makes it isometric. And I am very fucking surprised. You were talking, Jordan, about how it took 15 years for someone to make a spiritual successor to like Mario Golf for the Game Boy Advance. I can't believe there hasn't really been a good isometric Tony Hawk Pro Skater ripoff, because it just works so well. Like it really looks like it's 3D, even though it's all just pixel art. It controls like a dream. This game like has no right being as good as it is, but both this and Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 had Game Boy Advance ports, and these are some of my favorite games on the Game Boy Advance, and I think I honestly might enjoy them more than the 3D games themselves. Just, you know, again, it's like this kind of bite-sized version of it, but it's so easy to pick up and play. It's really aesthetically pleasing. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it runs at like a solid 60 frames per second, and just, I don't know, it's gorgeous. I don't know what else to say about it. Did any of you, did you ever play this, Jordan?
I did not play this, but you know who made this game?
Who?
Vicarious Visions.
Yeah. Yeah. It was in-house, right? Yeah. Yeah. And I think, yeah,
no,
I think
they're the ones who made the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake.
The remake, right?
I'm like,
right.
These guys, they get it. Like they get Tony Hawk. So I'm not surprised to hear that these games are so good. But no, that rest in peace, fucking absorbed into the Call of Duty machine. Really, honestly, one of the worst things. I agree. I was like really bummed to hear that. I was like, seriously, they made like one of the best remakes for the Tony Hawk, and then they made that really good Diablo 2 remake, and you're just gonna put them on Call of Duty. Okay, all right, that's how it makes sense. But yeah, anyway, I was reading through Game Boy Advance games, and I was like, Vicarious Visions made this. This makes so much sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome, dude. I mean, like, I if I had any idea how to make games, I'd probably make a game very similar to this and just totally rip it off, because it was just kind of mind blowing, and it's crazy how well it holds up to this day.
It's like the closest thing we have is like Ollie Ollie, kind of, but it's like not even like
not really. Yeah, I mean, you know, Ollie Ollie's side scrolling, and then Ollie Ollie World I haven't played, which seems like it's kind of similar, but yeah, I don't know. This was like lightning in a bottle, and I would love if they would somehow figure out how to port this.
Yeah. Okay, one I really want to see, and again, probably a long shot, is Boktai, The Sun Is in Your Hand.
What is that?
Yeah.
It's called Boktai, The Sun Is in Your Hand. Yeah, this is a Kojima joint. This is probably the first Kojima game I ever played. Because I don't think I played Twin Snakes till a little bit later. When I was a little bit older, my friend next door had gotten it. But anyway, dude, this game is so good. Like, it is a like isometric action adventure style game, but with a lot of like stealth elements. So it's like got like a very Kojima feel. Like there's even an element where like you can hide it, like get your back against a wall, knock on the wall, and then enemies will come around to where you knocked, and you run around and you hit them from the back. But the really big thing about this game was it had a solar what do you call this? Like sensor in it. So in the game, like you have an energy meter for your weapons, and how you recharge it is there's like little beams of light, and the beams of light are more or less powerful depending how bright it is outside.
Yeah.
So
you had to play it outside. Yeah.
You had to play the game outside and run, and like then you would like to recharge your gun or weapon meter, you'd have to run to these little sections, make sure it was bright outside, and then you'd like fill up your weapon meter with sunlight. It was like just such a weird concept, but the game is actually really good on its own. And I know some emulators have figured out how to kind of like emulate the sun. Basically, I don't know exactly how that works.
Emulate the sun.
Yo, I'd like an emulation of the sun right now at the fucking 105-degree weather.
I don't know, man. I read Neuromancer, and that doesn't sound too great.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Good point.
But
I don't know exactly how you do that on the Switch. I mean, there is an ambient light sensor on the Switch that like maybe they could figure out a way to like make that work with this, but man, this one feels like a long shot to me. I would love to see it come out because I've never played this game, partly because it's difficult to emulate, right? And I think it's probably pretty fucking expensive to get a copy of this game today.
Yeah. Oh shit, I do have a copy. On our next break, I'm going to grab it. But yes, I do have a copy of this game still. The second one is even more expensive because it came out in the US and it wasn't a huge success. So the second one's, I think, even more expensive because they just made less copies. And then there's a third one that came out in Japan, never made it over to the US. And then there is a spiritual sequel for the DS called Lunar Nights or Lunar Night.
Right. Yeah. I forgot about that.
And that one, they did the same concept, but you didn't have a sun sensor. So it was just, a variable within the game mechanic that you could do it more. Lame. And that game's fantastic as well. I mean, they're all great games. So I would just love to see this making any sort of a comeback. Also, it's like one of the forgotten Kojima joints that like no one talks about, but is still a really good game. Yeah,
I definitely want to play that one. Time will tell. I'm going to jump forward to more games that shouldn't be on the Game Boy Advance, but somehow are, with Super Monkey Ball Jr., which I actually have in the background of my video here. But Super Monkey Ball Jr. was just a straight up port of Super Monkey Ball for the Game Boy Advance. I, to this day, have literally no idea how it works. Like, it's just like a fully featured 3D Monkey Ball game on the GBA, and it just somehow works. I mean, the graphics are pretty fucking crunchy, right? But somehow still kind of look good in like a retro aesthetic sort of way. Like, I think this game actually holds up pretty fucking well. I think the main thing about this game that doesn't hold up quite well is a little bit of the input latency, and also the frame rate is pretty low because, I mean, they're rendering like full 3D graphics on the GBA. There are a few games that have like pretty convincing 3D graphics on them, including like, I think there was like a driver game that's like pretty incredible. There's a great YouTuber called Stop Skeletons from Fighting who goes through a lot of 3D Game Boy Advance games. I definitely recommend checking out his stuff. But I think bar none, this is the best of the 3D Game Boy Advance games. And I would just be pickled. I would be tickled pink. I would be tickled pink. Is that an expression?
Yes.
I think so. If this were to come out for NSO. Again, really unlikely. You'd have to strike a deal with Sega. But, never say never. If they could get, Genesis games on NSO, maybe this could make its way over to the Game Boy Advance NSO. If not more than just a novelty, this game is super, super fun.
Yeah, I never got to play this one. Would love to see that.
I'll let you borrow it. I'll trade Boktai for Super Monkey Ball Jr.
I looked up how much Boktai's worth, and I think I might hold on to that for a while. Oh man,
I got Monkey Ball Jr. complete in box, bro.
I got Boktai complete in box, bro.
Oh shit!
Yeah. That was a wake up call where I haven't looked that up in a couple years, and whoa, the retro games market is very stupid.
Yeah. I just recently found I have Ogre Battle 64 for
shit.
the N64, and I just looked up how much that's worth, and I think not even in box, just a loose copy is like $150.
Yeah, guys.
That's only going to go up.
We can literally play all these games. Okay, this is a sidetrack. We can play all these games on a computer now. Like, what are we doing here? Anyway, I'm gonna keep going with that theme. I'm gonna go with Dragon Ball Z: The Legacy of Goku 2. This is also a shout out for Matt because I know he would be happy to hear a Dragon Ball Z game make it to this list. But I had Dragon Ball Z: Legacy of Goku 1 and 2 for GBA. The first one's like fine. It's like a very simple kind of like top down, almost like Zelda style game, but you play.
Yeah, it's like an action RPG kind of, right?
Yeah, and you play through like the beginning of Dragon Ball Z all the way to the Frieza saga, and then that's where it cuts off. And then, like, for my peak Dragon Ball for me was like the beginning of the like Future Trunks Android saga all the way through the end of Cell. That was like peak Dragon Ball Z for me. So that's what this game covers, and this game like amps up what you liked about the first one, but like makes literally everything better and more playable. So in the first one, you can only play as Goku. This one you can play as like Goku, Vegeta, Gohan. I think you start out as Gohan. I'm trying to remember who else. Piccolo. Trunks, yeah. And so you can level them all up, and they all have kind of like different abilities that can get you to different places. And it's just like a really well done, like top down action RPG. It might be one of the best Dragon Ball games ever made, honestly, because it's just super solid, really fun to play. But again, I don't think this would ever happen. They made a third one that I never ended up playing called Boo's Fury, and it kind of just rounds out the Dragon Ball Z saga because I think it goes all the way to the end of the series. But man, what a great game. I would love to see something like this come, but I doubt it. I don't even remember who made it.
Yeah, I'll take it from there. I want to give a little bit of a shout out to a game that I've actually never played, but I do own, and I have it here in my house. Is Wario Land 4. We've been getting a lot of Wario Land love, a lot of Wario love in general on NSO recently. And Wario Land 4, as I understand, is a game that holds up incredibly well. Some of the best pixel art on the Game Boy, bar none, with Wario Land 4. And it's so good that basically they made just a new version of it with Pizza Tower, which is like one of like the hottest new like platformers that's been out right now. They basically just did Wario Land 4, but took it to its extreme, right? This game is beautiful, and I've always wanted to play it. And so, I mean, I think that this is pretty much a given. I feel like this one's going to come out. We do have Wario Land 3 on the Game Boy Color on NSO. I would be very fucking surprised if this doesn't come to the Switch eventually, but I just definitely wanted to give this one a shout out before the end of the episode.
Totally. This is one I never got to play either. So this is one I really hope comes. And it seems so likely that I'm just hoping that it will happen, you know, because I just big blind spot for that time period. I definitely knew friends who had it, but I just never got it. Definitely right up my alley though. So I would love to play it.
Yeah. I've got this one on my Steam Deck. I started it on my Steam Deck and then I stopped because I was like, I kind of want to play this with an OLED screen. And,
probably coming.
That look really pretty. Yeah.
It'll look really good on the Switch OLED if it eventually comes.
I also, dude, I just like while you were talking, I'm so sorry to like go backwards, but Ted Kaczynski's in The Legacy of Goku 2, which is like so, I like didn't know that at the time when I played through the game. And this happened maybe like, it probably came up in the news cycle maybe like 6 or 7 months ago. Someone was like, hey, just a reminder that Ted Kaczynski is in the Dragon Ball Z, The Legacy of Goku 2. And I'm like, are you, what? It's like so freaking bizarre that this like even happened. Like who, anyway, I just wanted to mention that because it just really blew my mind. Anyway.
Oh yeah. I don't remember the Unabomber in the show, but
me neither. I was like, weird edition, but okay. Developers are weird, I guess.
Yeah.
And anyway, next up, I don't really this list. We're dwindling down. I'll go Fire Emblem Sacred Stones because that's one that I never got to play, and I love the first Fire Emblem. So I think by this point, it's like if I played the first game, I generally didn't play the second game. So like I didn't even play Golden Sun: The Lost Age until many years later after the Game Boy Advance. But this one, I played Fire Emblem and I played Advance Wars 1, and I never played Fire Emblem Sacred Stones, and I never played Advance Wars 2. So I would love to get the opportunity to play that, see that story through, and see what's up with that. I just figured, I mean, to me at the time, I think it was like more of the same. And now I'm like, oh, great. That's more of the same. Like, let's try that out. Yeah. You know, so
totally.
So I would love to see that one come. I don't really honestly know much about it other than that. I would like to play that story for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take this next one here. It's one that you actually put on the list, so apologies for sniping it from you. But it's The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past plus Four Swords for Game Boy Advance. I'm kind of actually a little split on this because, you know, obviously we have A Link to the Past in the Super Nintendo NSO, although I do think the Game Boy Advance version is the definitive version of that game. That said, it included Four Swords, right? Which was a really cool like multiplayer add-on to the game, right? It was like a whole kind of extra game on top that utilized a lot of co-op and working together with a friend as you play. I think the reason that I'm a little split on this is that I'd really like to just see Four Swords Adventures come to the Switch as its own app, right? That was basically a DS. It was DSi, maybe? Is that what it was? Four Swords Adventures?
GameCube.
Maybe it was, but I know they put it out on DS. You could play it handheld. But anyway, any kind of Four Swords I would love to see come to NSO in some fashion. And if it's just this way, that would be fine. I would have thought that this wouldn't come, but then we recently got all the Super Mario Advance games, which are, you know, remakes of remakes, basically. So I think that this coming to Nintendo Switch Online Game Boy Advance is actually pretty likely. And either way, I just think this would be a blast to play online with friends. So yeah.
Totally. That's why I want it, because like, yeah, I was really skeptical that this would ever come for the exact same reason. I was like, but then they dumped all those games at once. It's like, oh, so you're saying there's a chance. But also just like all these games have like the native built-in like online co-op. I'm like, dude, this would be so sick to just be able to like log on and play with some friends. And then I also remember, I think the GameCube one, you know how the GameCube had the adapter that you could plug into the Game Boy Advance?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I remember playing that on the GameCube. We would all have like our little, you know, we played that, and then maybe like Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles as well. Yeah, the same thing. Very limited use on that. But yeah, man, I would love to see Four Swords Adventures. Honestly, I would love to see a new version of this. I think that would be phenomenal in the Link's Awakening engine. Never going to happen, but you know, while we're just throwing things out that are never going to happen. But this one, I think is pretty likely. I think eventually it will come out.
And there was just about a week ago at Summer Games Done Quick, there was actually a Four Swords speed run, which was very entertaining. And I recommend people watch it because co-op runs are pretty rare at GDQ. And this one was super fun to watch.
Yes, chef. All right. Ratatouille. All right. Yes, chef. Let's go with another one that I never really got to play. I still haven't even got to play the original Tactics Ogre, The Night of Lotus. Apparently this game's supposed to be phenomenal. It's supposed to be just as good as a regular Tactics Ogre, and I think it's a prequel to in that world. So I would love to play it. I was a Tactics head. I will always be. And it looks similar to like the Final Fantasy Tactics style of Tactics, which I just love. So I just wanted to give that a little bit of lip service. I don't really know too much about it. And I still haven't got the Tactics Ogre remake, which is high on my list of things to play eventually. But, you know, there are too many video games in the world right now. So
yeah, there are too many games, but please, Nintendo, drop every single game we've been talking about.
But please make it happen. You know,
yeah.
All right.
I want to shout out Sonic Advance. Any of the Sonic Advance games would actually be awesome. I think really 1 and 3 are the best out of all the Sonic Advance games. But man, I kind of see these eventually coming to the Switch in like a collection on the eShop, if I'm honest. But these are like unique Sonic games, like 2D Sonic games that, for my money, are just as good as the Genesis games. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in these games. The graphics are awesome. Really, really cool soundtracks. It's kind of like visually the Sonic design is a little bit closer to like Dreamcast Sonic, right? Like it's kind of you're playing as modern Sonic in a 2D setting. But man, these games perform really, really, really well. Some of the best games on the GBA for sure. And yeah, I think it was this Dimps that made these games, if I'm not mistaken, which have gone on to make a lot of Sonic side games outside of Sonic Team, but they just like get it, right? Like this is a far better sequel to Sonic 3 than Sonic 4 was, which we also talked about last week. But yeah, these games would be really, really awesome to see come to the Switch in any form. I'd love to see them on NSO, obviously, just so I could fire them up in the app. But if this comes as a collection on the eShop, I would take that as well. These games never really get talked about in official capacity, which is a real shame because they're some of the best Sonic games out there.
Super underrated. I definitely had at least the first one. I really enjoyed it. I also have a memory of doing this with, I had Sonic Adventure Battle 2 on GameCube. And again, with the link cable, you could put your chows into Sonic Advance.
Yeah,
and then
right.
you could take your chows on the go. So I was like, oh, this is my little chow garden on the go. It was pretty cool, man. I love that. Really interesting use of that link cable, and just having that in a Sonic Advance game seems so random. But I remember the Sonic games being just really solid as well. I think I had one, and I maybe got two eventually, but that's all. That's where I stopped. But yeah, you're right. No one really talks about these games, and they're just as good as any mainline Sonic game at that time, especially too. You know, definitely would love to see that for sure. But yeah, collection is more likely. You know what? I'll do the Pokemon. Any Pokemon. Okay. Literally any Pokemon game. Like, just what the fuck are, you know, the fact that they didn't even just like throw out like Pokemon Pinball. You know what I mean? I was like, dude, it's literally just you could do 1-in-1. Each Pokemon Pinball Game Boy Color, Pokemon Pinball Game Boy Advance. Boom, done. You got your lip service to the Pokemon fans. The fact that they haven't even mentioned Pokemon at all coming to this is just like insane to me. Like, I
really think they're gonna make a Pokemon app for NSO. I think it's gonna be a separate tier. I really do think so.
So ridiculous, dude. Yeah. Like that's
it does feel like something's going on where they haven't added what? I guess Pokemon Stadium is it, right? Is there any other Pokemon
games? Snap for N64 they added. We know Pokemon Trading Card Game is coming for Game Boy Color. Yeah. But man, Pokemon Pinball for Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance, both are awesome games. If they're not going to bring the mainline games for some weird reason, at least bring these over. Yeah. By the way, both of these games created by Jupiter, the Picross developers. So it's nice to see them make some other games other than Picross games. And they killed both of these. They're really, really awesome pinball games. I'd love to see those come, but who knows if they're going to be adding these kinds of games at this point. But
yeah, super fun. It also makes me wonder, like, would they just add Pokemon Emerald and Pokemon Crystal, or are they going to add all three? Like, just whatever. I have so many questions.
I think that confusion is why they just haven't done any of them.
Yeah. I also wonder if they're trying to figure out some sort of integration mechanics, because they've had a heck of a time figuring out how to integrate all of these Pokemon games on the Switch, switching, being able to trade between games. So I'm wondering if that's maybe part of the holdup for the mainline games, is they want to figure out how to put that into home or something, but I highly doubt it.
Dude, I think I just realized what's probably going to happen. What if they just add these games into Pokemon Home, right? That would kind of make the most sense, because then if you had them be they're never going to do what makes the most sense. Pokemon Company sucks. But like, if they just added these games straight into Pokemon Home, they could charge a subscription for it, like they already do, add a new tier for Pokemon Home, and then you wouldn't have to do any transferring out because all the save data would be within that app already, right? I bet you anything that's what they're going to fucking do. And I don't know. Maybe not, but that would be cool.
I just want Pokemon Pinball. At least just bring it.
Yeah, I just want Pokemon Pinball. Yeah, exactly.
You can keep Mystery Dungeon. I'm good.
We already got a remake of that.
Yeah, it's like I'll live. That's fine. Yeah. Just give me the pinball games, man.
I got just like a couple other little ones here. One of them is speaking of Game Freak. I wanted to give a shout out to Drill Dozer, which is a game that released in Japan and in the US, but never had a European release outside of, I think, the Wii U Virtual Console. They released it there, but Drill Dozer is a really interesting platformer with some really interesting mechanics, and kind of reminds me a little bit of Wario Land in the way it plays, but I don't know. It's really kind of hard to explain. But yeah, this is a really cool like hidden treasure that I'd like to see return for the GBA. And maybe I'll do one more before you do the last one here, for obvious reasons. But I want to give a shout out to Iridian 2. Iridian itself was kind of like a 3D shooter where the camera was like behind the ship, and you would kind of like shoot by flying around, kind of like Star Fox a little bit. Iridian 2 is a top-down shmup. But it has the faux like 3D graphics and has aged really, really well, performs incredibly, and you shouldn't be surprised because it's made by Shinen, who are the developers behind Fast RMX and also the Tourist, which is a recent game by them. They're some of the best developers in the world that somehow have always gotten the most out of underpowered hardware. Like Fast was originally a WiiWare game, right? Before it got ported to Fast RMX, which eventually then came to the Switch. And at the time, with like the limited space that was allowed for WiiWare games, they were able to make a beautiful like 3D racing game that had never been done before. They've been doing this kind of shit forever. And even back in the GBA, they were doing like pretty mind-blowing stuff with the graphics at the time. And Iridian 2 like holds up gameplay wise. It's kind of got that, I guess it's like an isometric shmup, I guess you could call it. But yeah, really super cool game. I would love to see this come. And I think this one might actually be somewhat likely. It's Majesco published it, so I don't know if any of their other games have come, but I'd love to see this somehow make its way to the service.
Yo, this looks sick. I'm watching a video of it right now. This looks so cool. I would definitely play this. Yeah.
It's a great like pick up and play game. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. When you said the name of the company, I thought you said Shin Yun, and I was like, wait, what? The dance troupe?
No.
Oh no,
Shinen.
No. All right.
That's who I want to make a new F-Zero game if nobody else is going to do it.
Shin Yun, the dance company?
No, Shinen. Come on.
All right. I think this the last one that we have.
Yeah, this is the last one on the list.
All right, we're dude. Freaking shout out to Reggie, Mother 3, do it, you cowards. Why are we doing this? If you look too, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you look at like the list of like releases, they have like the timeline of all the games that have released on the NSO app. Like the latest release is actually Earthbound Beginnings, which is ridiculous that they put that at the last. But anyway, just put out Mother 3, dude. Like, what are we doing? Yeah. They know they've been sitting on this translation for probably since the game came out. Mm-hmm. It exists. I don't know why this hasn't happened before, but I mean, there is precedent that they did the Earthbound Beginnings. So I'm hoping that means eventually we'll get Earthbound After. I don't know what they would call it, but it's not going to be Mother 3. They're going to sub
Earthbound Endings.
Earthbound Endings, yeah.
Oh, sad. That's more depressing.
Earthbound, there will be no more games in this series.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I think you're right on the money, and I think that there is precedent for this, right? I mean, other than the fact that it's a meme at this point, that this game hasn't come out, like Earthbound Beginnings did not have a US release, right? And that got released on the Virtual Console and eventually ported to NSO. Also, we got Star Fox 2 on Super Nintendo, Nintendo Switch Online, and that was just straight up never released anywhere, right? And they just were sitting on that game forever, right? And they actually even finished it, for this collection, right? And so I think that there's no reason really not to do this other than some sense of, there's been talk about some of the subject matter of the game might not be palatable for a modern audience. But I think at this point, man, you got to just put this game out, and having all 3 Earthbound games on the Switch, that'd be pretty amazing, right?
I could also see them, though, with all the meme aspect of it, doing what they did with that Fire Emblem game we were talking about earlier, where they actually sell it on its own rather than putting it on this app. But I don't know.
I hope they don't do that. Yeah. But it also might be nice to own it. If they put it out like a physical version of it, that'd be pretty cool. Definitely would sell, at least for Nintendo fans.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it would like really move the needle from like a, yeah.
If they did something like they did with that Fire Emblem, I'm fine with that. That game was what, like $8 or
it was
something?
like 5, 10, somewhere.
I think it was $5. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. If they put this out and made it like $10, $15, sure, whatever. I don't care. Just do it. Also, I mean, if that's what it takes, like, it's like, how many people would buy that digitally for $10? Like, you can make buku bucks, baby.
Buku bucks.
Is it palatable for modern audiences? I mean, you could just do a modern translation, maybe change a couple things. I don't know. I just don't see that being like the reason that stops them. I think at this point, it's just for whatever reason, if that's the reason they don't want to do it, is like a very weak, thin excuse, because everyone knows there's maybe like an asterisk there, at least all the fans do. So just do it. I don't know.
I honestly see this happening.
Yeah.
I think it's like there's been, not like there's been any smoke there. It's not like we've seen any rumors of it happening, but it just feels like something they'll eventually do, right?
Yeah, totally.
And I really think that NSO is like the right place for it. I'm not gonna say I'd be surprised if it doesn't come, but I have a feeling in my gut that this will eventually happen. I really hope it does anyway. It would suck if it came to Japanese NSO and then not,
oh my! Don't even like put that out there, dude. Like
we get fucking Earthworm Jim Advanced or some shit, or
Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku.
yeah. Oh Lord. Before we wrap up, I do want to say, I mean, there's a few games that are like in the best of Game Boy Advance games lists that if you ever look them up, they're up there. The 3 Castlevania games, incredible. Those are some of the absolute best GBA games. Those are on the eShop already, right? In the Castlevania Advance collection. So I really don't see those being shelled out onto this. Konami's trying to actually make some money off of those, right? Final Fantasy VI, arguably, I think the definitive version of the game is the Game Boy Advance version of the game. It has the most content, aside from a couple weird graphical things and a soundtrack that is not quite the best because of the limitations of the GBA. That's the only thing holding it back from being the definitive version. But we have Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, so I think there's absolutely no way that that's going to end up coming. Same with the Mega Mans. We had Mega Man ZX, right?
Mega Man 0. And
just Mega Man 0. That's right.
It's like 1 through, I think, 4.
Yeah, there were a few of them. Yeah. But I mean, those are all in a collection on the eShop. And then kind of finally on here, I also have the Advance Wars games, are often known as some of the best GBA games, but I highly doubt those will be coming to NSO, given that those are available for a full retail release and a full remake, right?
At least not soon.
Yeah.
Because they did bring, why can't I think of the name? Link's Awakening, right?
Yep.
And they did put Mario 64 on after selling Mario 64 for a limited time.
Metroid 2
collection. But I don't think they would do it like soon. If they ever do
I agree. They want to have some people actually purchase the collection first and then throw in the freebie for people that are maybe interested to see how it originally played or want to play with the original art style.
Yeah.
But I wanted to give those games some lip service, obviously, since they're known as some of the best games for the system, but it's unlikely that we'll see them at all. Not that it's likely that we'll see, Dragon Ball Z, The Legacy of Goku 2, or Boktai, The Sun Is in Your Hand, but fuck it. A man can dream. But that was we really went through that. I think we did a pretty good job. It was pretty comprehensive.
Let's pat ourselves on the back.
Yes. Yeah, you particularly.
I did. Patrick. Patrick.
You did a really good job on this episode.
Those videos are looking great, man. I love
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, well, I think that does it then. I'm sure, if you're out there listening, maybe, and you had a GBA, maybe there's a game you really want to see come to NSO. Definitely tag us, drop us a line, let us know what that is, and we'll shout you out next time. But I think that's going to do it for our main topic, and we're going to take another short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the games we've been playing recently. I keep being tempted to want to try other games, but really all I am playing is Tears of the Kingdom and then some Splatoon 3 here and there. So
where are you at in Tears?
Again, like I'm in this weird place playing kind of two simultaneously games, but I've kind of just leaned into playing with my son because he's so much further than I am. And then like when I play by myself, I just kind of like do shrines. And so anyway, like we're pretty far, like getting into the point where I don't want to like talk about the story stuff because I feel like it's interesting what happens after you do all the 4 temples and like how much content there is. I kind of thought there wouldn't be a lot more content.
You've wet my whistle, dude. I've only done 3 temples, so I'm not that far yet.
And it makes me almost want to suggest to all the people that are like, I'm having so much fun, I don't need to do the 4 temples, to be like, do the 4 temples. Do them because it's not like you do that and then you beat the game.
Right.
Again, I'm not even sure how much there is, but it's been fun to do those things. And there's some interesting stuff beyond that is, again.
Wow. I mean, fuck. If there wasn't, I would be totally satiated with how much game there is.
And I'll be honest, I kind of thought that after you do that, you're probably the next story beat is to go fight Ganon, but that's not the case.
That's awesome.
So,
that kind of makes sense a little bit from a story perspective, maybe, because I'm still kind of putting together the story. Like, sorry to just like jump in on this.
Please
I've also
do.
been playing so much Tears of the Kingdom. I'm getting like caught up. Like, I just beat the 3rd temple, but what I just did, like right before we recorded, was I finished the Dragon's Tears like quest. Right.
Yeah.
So I got all the. I kind of don't want to say what the reward is, but I think you can kind of suss it out, and you get a lot of story there as well when you finally get all the cutscenes from checking out all the geoglyphs. But that was crazy and such an awesome, epic moment in this game. Finally,
it's telegraphed if you see a lot of the. If you've seen some of the memories, right?
But, for sure.
But yeah,
it's that was pretty amazing. But yeah, I just beat the Fire Temple, and I think I only have the Gerudo stuff left. So you saying that, Patrick, has actually made me want to just straight beeline it over to
because I've done some fun gameplay stuff after, like as part of that main quest after the 4 temples. I actually think the 4 temples are pretty fun. In and of themselves.
I think so too. But yeah, I mean, I was gonna like fuck around in like Terrytown. Like I haven't done anything in Terrytown yet. I like only recently just got to Akala, right? And so
I don't think this is a spoiler, but the thing we did today was building the house building thing.
Right. Yeah. I haven't gotten to any of that yet. Right. But now I think I'm going to wait. I think I'm like, I took a like long break and I did all the Hateno side quests and like the whole like, the election stuff, because I really wanted to be able to put my hood down was basically why I did all that stuff, as I just like really wanted to wear my hood down, and now I could do that, which is great. But but yeah, I definitely I think I'm gonna move straight to Gerudo from here, and you've kind of lit a fire under my ass to do that, Patrick.
Yeah, and just to follow up, like we did a big chunk of that. We got to a part where my son is resistant to wanting to do the next beat of it, which I can get into why, but it would be spoilery. And then
maybe avoid it for my sake.
And then what we've instead been doing is just kind of pick a side quest and do it, which has been fun, because I know that once we beat it, I will lose motivation, at least in the short term, on my file and on his. You know what I mean? It'll be like, okay, so like it's kind of fun to just knock out a side quest here and there. Did all the stable ones.
Yeah, I've barely done any of those.
Those are pretty fun too. I think. Anyway, yeah.
Crazy shit, dude. It's hard to wrap my head around how much content is in this game.
It's insane.
It's really crazy. This really feels like a 300-hour game to do everything. But, I mean, I've totally abandoned the depths, for right now. I mean, like I've got like 6 batteries now. So it's like, a lot of the Goron stuff, is down there. Sorry if that's a spoiler, but there's a good amount of stuff like in the depths in there. So I kind of like have been getting back up. I've got 6 batteries, and that's good. I think for now, I think I could just kind of move on and then kind of treat the depths as like end game stuff for me at this point. But
Nice.
Yeah. Well, if that's all you've been playing, I got a couple more things I want to give a shout out to. Ben, I played a good amount of Super Mario Advance, Super Mario Brothers 2, which is by far the best way to play Super Mario Brothers 2, in my opinion. The Game Boy Advance version that is on NSO. Great pooping game. Speaking of pooping games, I have been actually playing the Mega Picross puzzles in Picross S9. Might actually 100% this game, gang. So pray for me as I'm playing other. I'm like just jumping back and forth. Basically, I don't want to play Tears of the Kingdom while I poop. So whenever that's happening, I open up S9. Sorry, I'm talking about poop so much. I do want to give a little bit of a shout out to Steve Irwin and Donnie Tello in our Discord. The three of us had a multiplayer night the other night. And we played Tricky Towers, which is amazing. And I totally mopped the floor with both of those fools in that game. I am really good at that game. So everybody play that game and get good so I can actually have some competition because the servers are dead. Nobody plays online unless it's your friends. And then we also played golf with your friends, which I think at the time of this recording, I think is still on sale for $4. And man, at $4, that is a deal, gang. And this game is not cross-platform, unfortunately. I know it's also out on Xbox Game Pass. Excuse me. But man, get it on the Switch. It's so much fun. It's just silly,
There's
multiplayer
crazy courses.
Yeah, like putt golf action. And you can play with like up to 12 people, I think, online. And it's so much fun. I really, really recommend that game. A couple other really quick shout outs. Tetris 99, I really put down for a while, picked it back up, got 2 Maximus Cups right in a row. Or I got 2 Tetris Maximuses right in a row. Very proud of that. And then lastly, I do want to give a shout out to Bleak Sword DX. It's a game we talked about last week that was at the Devolver Showcase. I picked it up. That game is awesome. It's like basically like a little bite-size Souls-like where it's like basically like a single screen Souls-like, right? Like you'll get little dioramas and you can just run around and just try to kill everything and not get killed yourself. And it's super fun. Pick up and play. Looks great on the OLED. It's like black and white, so those like inky blacks from the OLED screen work really, really well with that game. But yeah, Bleak Sword DX is the final game that I've been playing this week. Yeah, and I've got some other games I picked up on sale, but I haven't started those yet. So hopefully I'll talk about those next week. What about you, Jordan? What have you been playing?
Well. This week I've actually played some video games, as opposed to last week where I was just so time crunched with that gig. But yeah, so after talking about it, once I talked about it, I had to get back on the horse and I played a little bit of Apex Legends, and I've been away for a while because of Tears of the Kingdom as well. And I got really bad in about a month's time. That's all it takes. Yeah. Also because my account is so old at this point and like relatively high level that like I get just matched with people that are similarly high level. So if I stop playing for a little while, it doesn't matter. I still get matched with people who are good. So that kind of sucks, but it was pretty fun, to get back into it. They added like this season, I think it was this season, they have like a rotating mode where it's not battle royale. It's like all these limited time game modes, but now it's like it's called like a playlist. So it's like those three different game modes that are rotating that are not battle royale, which I think is fun because the mechanics within the game are pretty fun as well. So mostly what I've been playing. And then, the playlist on that. And then I also was been playing Tears of the Kingdom. Since I hadn't gotten back to it for a while, I had been like over a week. I was like, shit, what was I doing? I have no idea. So I opened the game up and was like, okay, this is it. I'm going to do the 4th temple. So I'm just going to go explore that area because like you were saying, Patrick, I was like, in every other Zelda game, like Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, you do like the first section and then it's like, boom, the game opens up again where it's like, oh, there's actually a second set of story beats that you have to go through. So I figured something like that was going to happen. I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but I was like, once you do the 4 temples, I'm sure there's going to be more after that. So yeah, so I've kind of just been exploring the area around Zoro's domain.
Okay, that's your last one.
That's my last one. So I've just been exploring the area, getting all the shrines in that area, and I'm making my way up to figure out how to get to the temple. So probably one shot that spinny thing like David did that one time. I don't know. I'll work on it. I don't know. And then
You better, dude. If you're not a real fucking gamer.
Well, I tried and I couldn't. So yeah.
Well, you're not a real gamer, Patrick.
I'm not.
How many shrines do you have, by the way? Do you know?
Dude, I probably have like 90, somewhere in that range, like 80 to 90. I have a good amount, honestly, because for a while I was just exploring the map, hitting shrines. That's all I was doing. And doing side quests along the way. So like, once I hit a place with a cool side quest, I would do that. Like Hateno Village, I did that one, and Lurelin Village, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, whatever.
I just checked. I'm at 85. Yeah.
85, yeah. So I'm somewhere in that range, maybe a little higher, but I would guess 90. That's gonna.
It's crazy that 85 is like still almost half. Like there's, I think there's 150, right? Yeah,
Just
totally
like,
insane.
Dude, which I haven't really done a lot in the sky. So most of mine are on the surface. So I would say I'm getting pretty close to rounding those out, but we'll find out anyway. And then the last game I've been playing, this is a shout out for Jay because he's the one who told me to play all these games. I've been playing the Ace Attorney games on 3DS because I picked them all up when they were on sale, like super deep discount. I just was like, you know what? Buy them all. It was like 20 or $30 for like every one that came out for 3DS altogether. So I'm just going in chronological order. So at first I played the first 3 cases in the first game, and then I stopped. And then I was like, you know what? Let's do the 4th one, because that's a really good game to pick up and play case by case. So I've been playing the 4th case. Edgeworth is your client. He is the antagonist in the first 3 cases. So it's really fun to see that kind of unfold. Man, what a well-written series too.
Yeah, those are awesome games.
Just like constantly surprising me because within the 5 cases, there is a like larger narrative that starts to unfold that is just like really awesome. Like the interconnected between the characters that is not talked about until it has to come up, it's just like really nice. So I'm really stoked to finish that out. I will eventually play them all. It's just going to take me a while, but yeah, that's what I've been playing.
Well, awesome. I think that does it then for this episode on GBA games we want on NSO. Jordan, we're going to be seeing a lot of you, but thanks for joining us to talk about this. Thanks to MilkyWay.co for doing our website. Thanks to Corduroy for doing our music. If you're looking for me, Patrick, online, I am PDYX. I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. You can find me on mostly Instagram and the Discord at Boredan, Boredan. Very good. If you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. We got a website, switchheadz.com, and we got our Discord and a Facebook group. Please join our Discord. Really great community. Been super awesome recently, and we're trying to get more people to play golf with your friends and Tricky Towers. So be sure to join us over there in the multiplayer channel. We'll try to get more regular multiplayer games happening often. That was a great time, but we'd love to see you there in the Discord or on the Facebook group. Links to both of those will be in the description of this show. That's going to do it for today's episode. We'll be back next week. We've got an episode planned next week, but it might switch around just in case there is some magical Nintendo Direct that's already come out by the time you're listening to this. We'll just have to see. But in the meantime, gang, you know the drill. Be safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Let's get some more GBA games out there in the wild. Probably one of the best generations of Nintendo systems. We love you guys very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.